and I see this stand. I don't know how somebody brought it out there, but it is like rebarb welded together, and it's like 4 foot by 3 foot. Like this thing had to be hell to carry out there. And there was a bear coming down it, and we could hear him coming down it, and he was getting real close. So we shot the shotgun right over towards, not towards him, but like in the area just to like deter him. And like he
Sure.
did not care. But run an XOP and my stand just goes right on the back, and then I can cover everything up.
Nice.
I've had that happen with a lot of rages because I think they go in so small that, and then like they depending on how they're exiting or where they're exiting, I guess. But I've had that happen with a bunch of rages. It's so hard to tell people like, why'd you shoot that deer? Okay, well, you just spent $900 on a weekend. Yeah, you're gonna shoot the deer. Like,
All right, so welcome back, everybody. We have Ted with us, and thanks for tuning in with us, man. Appreciate it.
yeah, not a
If you,
problem.
if you could just tell everybody a little background on you.
Yeah, so my name's Ted Jones. I'm from Michigan, born and raised. I've been bow hunting since, oh gosh, I was like maybe 13. I can't remember. It was like sixth grade or something. And yeah, I run a small YouTube channel called Brothers at Full Draw. And I actually am a creative director in the outdoor space as well.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you guys had that Brothers at Full Draw?
I think we started it in 2012.
Okay,
Actually, and it was like me and my best friend. We just started. We were filming so much, and I was going to school for graphic design, so I was doing photography classes and everything. And I was like, oh, we're just already filming. We might as well start a YouTube channel, and then it was just for fun.
yeah, for sure. I was actually taking a look at you guys' channel. It looked like you had a heck of a season this year.
So like this year, last year we did. Last year we had a crazy season. This year is we had some bucks hit the ground. It just was not. We had a great season on seeing deer and getting on deer. We just couldn't get shots at them.
Yeah,
And yeah, this year's been packed. COVID, I don't know. For me, COVID, I've been traveling more than I have ever been traveling before for work. Um, and I don't know if that's just because we've had more free time because of everybody else, but I was so busy during the season that I didn't get to film as much as I wanted to this year. And it sort of, I don't know, it sort of got put on the back burner. I was still hunting, but it's just like the filming aspect, I was pretty drained. So
I
we had
got
a good season. I didn't get to shoot anything. I'm sort of pissed. It's like the first year in a couple years that I had shot like $2 a year, um, which is unfortunate, but it happens to everybody. So I had some
you.
cool encounters this year, though.
Absolutely. So I think maybe I got it wrong, but when I was looking at your videos, I think you went to Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. Was that last year?
Yeah, yeah. So last year we did a week long in Indiana. I went down to Ohio a couple times, and Michigan. Yeah, it's just because we're all from Michigan. And there's 8 guys on the eight. I think 8 of us. God, I can't remember sometimes. And yeah, so we did this year. We did Ohio. A couple of us went down to Indiana, but we didn't do like a big trip again this year. And then Michigan, yeah, we all were out in Michigan. But yeah, last year was pretty awesome because we got to go check out some new ground and stuff. And this year a lot of us didn't have time, especially with snow. A lot of us snowplow, and so um, they were packed this year, which is good for them, good for business, but bad
Sure.
for hunting.
Dang, that's awesome. So when you guys go hunting, do you guys usually just do like state land or do you guys have private land? How's that work?
So it all depends on where we're at. The Indiana property that we were hunting at last year, that property is actually a decommissioned nuclear power plant.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it's 900 acres. It hasn't had people on it in years. There's one other guy that hunts it. And that property is pretty wild. So that's a big private piece though. And then our Ohio property is knock on door. So we just walked up and we're like, hey, like we bow hunt. This is what we do. And she gave us permission. And that's like, I think 207 acres. So it's a good chunk of land there.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. But the only thing with that is like, you go to all these knock on door parcels and stuff, and like if they give you permission, they're probably most likely going to give somebody else permission as well.
Mm,
And so there's like I think 3 other people that have permission on the property that we like run into, and so like that's very frustrating, but I mean it's a free property, so it's just like public. So we
sure.
really call it public land because anybody really could get permission there.
Yeah,
And so that's unfortunate, but I would say there's some better opportunities there than public land, even though Ohio has some amazing public land as well. And we've been down there to hunt public land, but none of us have capitalized on public land down there really.
for sure.
And
When you
then
guys go down there, do you guys have like a like when you go hunting, how do you know what deer you're gonna shoot? Like, is it like the first buck that you see? Like, do you usually like I don't
no,
know,
so
man.
I can actually do this. So that top deer is my biggest deer. It was 150 inches on the dot. That was a leased property down in Ohio, and so we had trail cam pics of this. This buck over here was my Ohio buck last year. That was November 3rd, I think, and I thought he was a different buck, but I wasn't gonna pass him up. And so like down there, we sort of just have a rule of thumb. Like I was down there on the last day of the season this past, or the second to last day, because I got sick down there, so I had to come home. But I don't know, I passed up like 100 and maybe like 115 inch 8 point, but like I wouldn't shot it, and everybody would have been sort of mad if I shot it. So we don't really care, I guess. We don't. It's more of like, hey, if that's the deer you want to shoot, more power to you. And like we try to have them, but we haven't been on a parcel that's like long enough to see them grow. So it's hard to really determine. Like we have, I think, two deer that we had on trail cam last year, and we just don't pay enough attention to it, um,
Gotcha.
to to really like pick and choose. And so it's really, when you're going out of state, I think it's hard, and a lot of people put like pressure on it, but it's hard to. I think it's wrong to be like, well, I'm going to pass that because I'm going to see it next year. Well, maybe you can't get down on the same weekend, that deer's not there, or whatever it is. And so I think whatever you're happy with, like, especially out of state, is so hard to tell people, like, why'd you shoot that deer? Okay, well, you just spent $900 on a weekend. Yeah, you're going to shoot the deer. Like, you don't want to come home empty handed. A lot of people don't have the ability to take off a bunch of days. And so, to me, it's like, okay, if you're going to go down there, like, yeah, just get it done. That's the point of going down there. But my buddy Pat on the team this year, he shot the biggest 4 point I've ever seen. I think it was a 4. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a 4. Okay, now I can't think. Maybe on a 6. Whatever. But it's huge. It's huge, and it had to be like a 4.5-year-old deer, if not a 5.5-year-old. And we have trail cam photos of it the past two years, I believe. And so that was a cool buck.
For
And
sure.
I mean, I think any of us wanted to shoot it. We had it on trail camera, so we did know of that deer. Um, but it actually broke off a tine on Halloween night, so
Oh wow.
that's a pretty cool buck.
Did that 4 point just blow up one year, or was it always like that?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at a photo of it, but he no, he's been the same exact rack forever.
Wow.
And hold on one sec. I'll be able to share the photos with you. And
Yeah.
it was awesome. And my buddy, that was his buck. The last time he shot a buck was, oh gosh, 5 years ago now.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Like 2012. Yeah, because that's when the state record was shot. So yeah, 2012 was the last. No, no. Gosh, I'm so bad right now.
No, you're
I
good,
have a
man.
lot, but no, 2000 and he shot Afro on our YouTube channel, Afro Bucket down in Ohio. That was 2017. So he hasn't shot a buck in 3 years, and he was so that's still a pretty good dry spell, I would say.
Yeah. But I think that that's cool though, that just how you explained it, like people spend all this money, to go down out of state and stuff, and then they'll come back empty handed because, they didn't see, a 200-inch buck. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Right. And it's
I,
just, I don't know, the expectations are there, and it's just, I think it's wrong. But again, I didn't shoot a buck this year, and I could have, but that's just not what I was going for. And my fiance would get mad if I shot something again. So that, because
so
it
at
has
least
to
you're
be
not
like,
losing any sleep over it. So it's,
yeah,
you know,
well, yeah, this is how it was. I had the coolest experience on public land here, and this year, and I didn't get it on film, and I was super mad about it. But last year, so this buck over here, I shot January 31st in Michigan. Last day in Oakland County, you're legally allowed to hunt, and he just popped up, and I didn't film him, but I was like, I don't care, like I just want to shoot something.
for sure.
And I think a lot of people put pressure on like getting content now, and I'm very wishy-washy on it because I don't like to produce anything that's not like up to par. And so it like really makes me agitated when I'm like, oh, okay, cool, like I didn't get film, and then you're just getting B-roll of everything, and I don't mind it, but now I'm like getting, I guess, not that I'm old, but now I'm getting to the point was like, like you like got to live in the moment still, and you can't just, everything doesn't have to have a photo.
Yeah.
But again, that's my job. And so, and on the other hand of things, I'm like, yeah, no, everything needs a photo. Like it's stupid if you don't have a photo. I'm like, so I'm stuck in this little whirlwind of things, but I had a cool
Fine line.
experience. Yeah, I had a sweet experience this year, and I was hunting. I'll show you. This is the biggest rub that I've ever come across on public land, and I set up like 20 yards off the rub, and I was on this rub line, and didn't see anything that morning. Didn't see the buck that was coming to that rub. I still don't know what buck really made the rub, but me and my buddy found it, and so I set up a stand, and I got down and it starts snowing. I think it was like the first snowfall this year, and I'm just getting down. I have my whole pack, so I run. Hold on one sec. I'll get you for you. I run an XOP. All my gear is like up in the apartment right now, but run an XOP and my stand just goes right on the back, and then I can cover everything up. So it's a
Nice.
pretty easy system, but it's a lot on your back to walk around on public land with. But I really like it because of all the camera gear we run.
Sure.
And so, but I have this on my back, and we're going down, and I see a doe, two does pop out. And I was like, I've never shot a Michigan public land deer. I don't care what it is. Like brown is down. I was definitely having a brown is down moment. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to sneak up on these deer. And I got to like, I don't know, 50 yards, and they finally spooked. It wasn't because of me. They just started like walking off. But I was following this rub line all the way to a swamp, and I was like, all right, my wind's pretty good. I'm just gonna cut straight through the swamp. Like I don't know if it's cold enough for it to be like sturdy enough for me to walk on, but I get out there, and I'm like on on Onyx. I was looking at this island for a couple days, and I was like, there has to be something right around it, like bedded right around this little oak island up in the swamp. So I'm walking to it, and I see this stand. I don't know how somebody brought it out there, but it is like rebarb welded together, and it's like 4 foot by 3 foot. Like this thing had to be hell to carry out there. And so I'm talking about my pack being like crappy to bring out there, and I'm looking at this thing in the tree. I'm like, wow, somebody actually got this out to this island. And I was like, maybe somebody like back in the day did know what they were doing back here. But you always find those things in public land.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
yeah, and I got up in it, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what the stand saw like over the years, what kind of deer passed this thing. And I get down, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna have a snack real fast and like think about my next move. And all of a sudden, the whole time I was going through the swamp, I was grunting just so if any deer was around me, me breaking stuff wouldn't bother them. They just think it was a buck because it was just the beginning of rut.
Yeah.
And I hear a buck grunt, and I look up, and 10 yards away there's a 140 or 145-inch buck just pops out, and I'm like, oh, okay. And she starts walking away, and I was like, oh, I gotta grunt right now, I gotta try to turn this thing around. And I think I spooked it, and he had no idea what was grunting or what was happening. And so he just started booking it, and I was like, oh darn, like that could have been a really cool experience, but it was just sweet to see him that close up.
Yeah, for
So
sure. That's
yeah,
awesome, man. That's a good story.
it was a wild day.
That's pretty
But
crazy.
and he came right out of the bed that it was like right out of the exact area I thought there'd be a buck bedding. And I was like, oh, if I can get back there this year, but I just never had time to go back there. So
And so you were going in blind. You were just using Onyx just to just kind of find a spot.
yeah, I'd been around that whole public land parcel. And like here in Michigan, there's not very big ones. I wouldn't say, like up north there is, but down where I'm from, like southeast Michigan, so there's not big parcels. I mean, they're a couple hundred acres, but they're not like massive.
Right.
Um, and so and a lot of people hunt them. So they get a ton of pressure. And so I've been there a couple times, and I'd seen trail cameras back there, and not exactly where I was going, but they were pretty close and pretty spot on. I think they're probably just like one little ridge off. And then, but yeah, I just sort of went in blind, and I'd walked the outskirts of the whole swamp, but I had never gone like straight through it. And I was just like, well, might as well. My wind's decent and it's snowing, so what
Sure.
could go wrong?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I definitely know what you're talking about. Like sometimes when you go into those parking lots for the public land, it looks like there's a party going on in there,
Oh yeah,
just like all those trucks and stuff in there.
yeah, yeah. Luckily, this one's bow only, which cuts down a bunch of pressure.
Sure.
Um, but it also I think adds a bunch of pressure because a bunch of people look at it, it's like, okay, it's bow only. There's probably not that many people in there, and then everybody goes in anyway. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
So I was looking on your page, and so I'm not sure how long ago it was. You took a trip to Alaska.
yeah,
How
yeah.
was
I
that?
so I was filming my buddy's a fly fishing guide there, and oh gosh, my throat. And so he wanted me to come up and film his lodge and make a lodge video for them, and that was just an amazing experience that didn't really think would happen this year, especially with COVID. But it was so cheap to go, like we couldn't pass it up. So
For sure. You got a picture of a grizzly bear on your page too, and that looks like some National Geographic stuff, Like it looks
oh
so
yeah,
cool.
it was yeah, it was it was pretty wild. We could get within like I don't know 10 yards of them, and they just would not care. They would just sit there and eat salmon. We're like, all right, this is sort of sketchy. And we had one rip open our tent, and that was very very sketchy. Sleeping that night, and we had one night that we were up on a riverbank that washed out, and like half the hill washed out, but it gave a little nice platform to be above the river.
Yeah,
And so many grizzlies come down, and or brown bears, whatever you want to call them, and they come down and fish at night on the river. So we're like, we got to get off the river a little bit so we're not too bugged.
sure.
And all of a sudden it gets dark, and we just shine our flashlights down the river, and there's just eyes everywhere. And we're like, oh, this sucks. Like, this is such a bad spot to be in. And we had one bear. There was two bear trails that were cutting. One was above us on the bank that wasn't washed out, and then there was one that went right across our bank that we found out later. And there was a bear coming down it, and we could hear him coming down it. And he was getting real close, so we shot the shotgun right over towards, not towards him, but like in the area, just to like deter him. And like he
Sure.
did not care. He just like went down in the river right next to our boat and just started fishing. We were like, this is so sketchy.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, those were long nights. You just like hear the twig break, and everybody wakes up in the tent.
That's insane, man. That's crazy. That sounds like a good experience though. I mean, not everybody can say they've been to Alaska, and I mean, clearly you got a
Yeah.
great story out of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a long week, and but it was pretty awesome.
That's great, man. So I guess we'll talk about like some of your like hunting setup. Is there like a camouflage or like hunting gear that you're just like you live by and that you're just like I would not go in the woods without this stuff?
Ooh. Um, right now we all run First Light. I think their price is just amazing for what you get. Like their gear is really, really nice. I was running Kuyu before, and I think their gear is great as well. I don't think it's for like the everyday person to buy a couple $100 jacket and go walk around with that and then rip it up. But I was also working for Kuyu for a little while, and so I got a pretty good deal on it.
Oh, that's pretty
Um,
cool.
but yeah, like I think all that gear really, I don't really have a specific thing that I'm like, I don't go out. I would say my boots, my muck boots, like are awesome. I think gosh, I just bought them this year. Oh, I can't remember what they are, but those boots are amazing. Um, I would say like this XOP pack is pretty awesome. For if you're gonna film, I think these are great. I think a lot of people overlook because they're bigger packs, like frame packs,
Hmm.
but they're so versatile, especially a Kuyu pack. Like you can put your stand. So what I used to do with the Kuyu pack is I take the whole frame off, and I would put that on the bottom of my stand. And so like instead of having straps on your stand, you just put the frame on it, and you can strap everything on the outside of the actual stand when you're going in, and just leave the pack or leave the frame on it when you hang the stand. So that you're, I mean, it looks like any straps that you connect to connect to any of the stands that they're coming out with now. I just like the sturdiness of it,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's more
genius, man.
comfortable. Um, yeah, and that was like I was doing my because I designed the whole instruction manual for the Kuiu pack, and so I was looking at them so often. I was like, oh, these are perfect for a stand. It's just, especially if you're filming. I think if you're not filming, I think they're overkill.
Mm,
Um, just because it is a lot of space, but like when you have your camera, when you have a mic, when you have like we use fourth arrow, so like when you have your fourth arrow set up, like it just becomes a lot of gear,
sure.
and you need something that has room. But I would definitely not recommend it for someone that's just going in like to hunt,
Yeah.
which is so funny to say because it's like we don't rarely go out without a camera, and if we do, we're like, this feels really awkward.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I
but
get it.
like back in the day, yeah, that's what we were doing. But I mean, I've been filming my hunts ever since I started hunting in general. My first deer was on camera. Um, I've done, yeah, it was, that is where like it began. So I guess I've always been used to having a camera in the stand.
Okay.
Um, and so it's a little different perspective, I think, than like nobody in my family hunts. I picked it up on my own, and I just like ran into some friends that I became really, really good friends with, and they're like brothers to me now. And those guys taught me how to hunt, and so it was just a different perspective on learning how to hunt, I guess.
That's awesome, man, that they brought you into hunting and stuff and you kind of like ventured
Yeah,
off on your own. And I mean, obviously, like you're doing pretty well. I mean, you can see the trophies behind you, you know, like that's awesome,
yeah,
man.
yeah. The fiance doesn't let them all come up here. She was like, "Yeah, just pick your top three," and I was like, "Okay, fine,
They look
sure,
good, man.
whatever."
That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
yeah. Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
they're the Sopsages. They're so Robert Sopsage, he holds the state record for Michigan's typical. It's a typical 12, and I think it's 182 and 7/8, I believe. Yeah, typical, and it's just oh that story. We were out in the stand hunting that night when they shot that buck, and my buddy Mark that started the Brothers at Full Draw with me, he actually shot his biggest, well, his at the time it was his biggest like I don't know, we call them just wall mounting bucks. Like I don't care what it is. If it's a 120 like and you want to wall mount it, it's a wall mounting buck.
For sure.
Um and so he shot his first one, and I was like, dude, like this is a great buck. So I called them down to help track it. And they were like, yeah, we gotta go. It started raining. We just found the buck. And they're like, yeah, we gotta go bowling. And I was like, why are you guys rushing to go bowling like when it's raining? Like this is weird. And I was like, okay, like see you guys. Like I didn't know you guys were that into bowling. You were just a bunch of hillbillies. Like, okay. And and they called us up like 30 minutes later, and they're like, dude, you got to come see this buck that we shot tonight. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, we just didn't want to tell you guys because we didn't want to jinx anything. And they had already shot a bigger buck 3 weeks prior, and they lost it 5 miles into the track. And so they were like, just didn't want to jinx anything.
For sure.
And then we pulled up, and it's just like looked like arms sitting up in their barn. I'm like, Jesus. And
That's
my buddy was like, looks at his deer and then looks at their deer, and they're like, I just want to throw mine away now. Like, it's stupid.
that's awesome. You got to see
But it
that
was,
though. Like how cool is that?
oh yeah, it was and it was so funny because that he shot it right. He was like 75. I have a stand down at their house, and it was like 75 yards from my stand. And that morning, I let Mark go hunt my stand. I was like, dude, don't shoot a buck down there. Like, I don't know what they got running around. Just shoot a doe. If a doe comes in, shoot it. And I didn't know that that buck was running around because they didn't tell me anything about it, obviously, because they were trying to just keep it super hush hush. And even
Sure.
though we were close, like everybody around that area, there's a lot of hunters within, I would say within like a quarter mile. And so that buck was running down there, and they knew about it and I didn't. So I just let Mark go hunt it. And luckily that buck didn't walk by because I don't think Mark would have been able to hold back. And yeah, gosh, that would have been bad for me, but
That's crazy, man. That's
it's a
wild.
nice buck. Yeah.
I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things like where I hunt, like I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but like up north, like near West Branch and stuff,
Yeah.
that's usually where I hunt and stuff. And um, We have like about 80, 100 acres, and it's just hard to keep good quality deer on there just
Yeah.
because it's just like what you said. Like, you can't make somebody, hey, we're only shooting 10 points or better. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of
Right.
parcels on the outsides.
Yeah, and that's like the hard point because like most of our parcels in Michigan that we hunt, I would say are under under 20 acres.
Okay.
And so like, you're not holding the buck on 20 acres, especially a mature buck. Like I mean, you might hold them on like you possibly if you absolutely have everything, I would say you could possibly hold them on a 50-acre parcel
Mm-hmm.
if you absolutely have bedding, feed, everything they need,
Yep.
but especially during rut, like there's no way that deer's staying on 50 acres.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's the hard thing that people like beat themselves selves up about is like they get so especially small parcels how Michigan is cut up is like the odds that you actually shoot the same deer that you're getting on trail camera are pretty low once it comes November,
Yeah.
and you might get back on them late season. That's why I like Oakland County's later season for like January. Like that deer was definitely miles away in January, not miles, probably a couple miles, but that like or in November, and then like he got back on his summer pattern like come late January, back to what he was used to, and I just got lucky. Like I had no idea. I hadn't hunted that property in a year and a half, and I just was like, oh, I'll go set up a stand, and that deer walked out and was like, oh, okay, it's my
Yeah.
biggest buck I've ever taken off that property. So,
And that's usually how you hear it
but
too.
yeah,
Like, you'll
it's
hear
really
most.
hard, and I think people just,
My bad. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, you're good. No, you're good. It would cut out on my spot on my half.
Yeah, I think it's probably my internet. It's not the best right now. I'm in a hotel, but yeah, I think that's why like most people who like during the rut and stuff, like especially you'll hear about like I've never even seen that deer before, or like I didn't even know that was here. And it goes to what you're saying, like
Oh
those
yeah.
deer are gonna be running miles, just to, they're rutting. So
Yeah, and it's really just I don't know if you it's so hard because I beat myself up about it too. I'll have a buck on camera. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to shoot. It's like, all right, does he actually live around here? Is it just like once in a blue moon he showed up?
yeah.
And my property that I grew up hunting on, I explained this a lot on. I don't know if you follow the Fall podcast.
Mm-mm.
Oh, so I was on the Fall podcast, and it's Aaron runs it, and he films for the Kiefer brothers, but he we were talking and the whole thing was about that buck last year, and I was explaining to him like I grew up learning how to hunt 2.5 acres. Like I had 2.5 acres to work with. It was bow only, and like I had to get it done on 2.5 acres, and like that was my only source of property to hunt on. And you just have to try everything in everything possible to get the deer to actually just come onto the property.
Sure.
And like, yeah, I just got super, super lucky on where the property was, set between bedding and food and like uh awesome metro park that holds deer that they get to grow up and like get big.
Yeah.
Um and so that was really cool to like learn how to do stuff there and like learn what the wind's doing and like have such a small parcel to like think about, because when you get to I don't know a bigger couple 100 acre parcel, like there's so many variables on everything, like your thermals, especially if it's hilly, your thermals and everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
that I think it's super hard to focus on and like learn from. So I would say like learning, I would rather learn on a small piece of property than go to a big piece of property and like you just have too much stuff to look at.
Yep.
Like you
Yeah.
have too much stuff to think about. And you know what I mean? It's like math. Like you're not doing crazy freaking algebra in elementary school. No, you're learning like what's 2 plus 2. And like that's sort of where I think people need to start, is just really start with the basics and don't try to go out and like, yeah, you could go out and get lucky. Like these people are saying, like, oh, I've never seen that buck before. Well, yeah, okay, you got lucky. Like I got lucky on that deer. And I'm not gonna say I didn't get lucky. I didn't know where to place a stand, and but there's only one tree on the property, so I can't really go anywhere else. And but like that's I think people like try to do like especially like hunting public, like people watch those videos like, oh, we could totally go duplicate that. And like that they have a lot of knowledge and They are way more knowledgeable than I am or may ever be, really. Um, and it's just because they've had a lot of practice. And so I think that's just the key.
That's such a good point, man. Because I think it's so easy for, hey, there's public land near my house, and I can just go out there and go do that. But like, I know they put out some videos sometimes about like, hey, we were looking at Onyx for like 45 minutes trying to see, this and this, and
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
a good point that you brought up.
Yeah. And even on that aspect, like e-scouting is great. But if you don't understand like what's happening on the ground there, it could be completely different. Like, yeah, a transition line, that's like the one tiny little bit to like start you out. But like
Mhm.
there's so much more once you get there that like you could change the hunting in general. Like, okay, are the acorns actually falling there this year? Like, yeah, it's a great transition point, but they could be 4 ridges over because your acorns aren't falling. And so
Sure,
you just wasted that time. And like, I guess you just have to get boots on the ground and like really see. But e-scouting is a great way to get that like nice little start.
absolutely. That's a good point, man. Very good point. So I know you said you do a lot of bow hunting and stuff like that. Can you tell us about your rig?
Yeah. Oh, I thought I had it up here, but I shoot a VXR right now, and I switched this year, and I sort of think I jinxed myself on not shooting my old bear because my bear agenda 6 I bought it in, I don't know, 2014. So I've had it, or whatever, it was new, 2016 maybe,
Okay.
and I've shot it forever. And I shot a bear with it. I've shot a bunch of stuff with it, and this year I switched, and I didn't shoot anything. So I'm like, all right. But
What
yeah, I
made you do
shoot
the
that.
switch?
Um, oh gosh, this
Especially
is
from a
gonna
different
sound so
brand
bad.
too.
Yeah, well, this is gonna sound so bad. I honestly switched because on an elk, I have an elk hunt. I had an elk hunt this year, and me and my buddy Vince went out, and he was just going out to film me, and I switched because honestly, no company really is gonna post pictures of or re-share your content if it's not the newest thing.
Got it.
And so I was like, you know what? If I'm doing all this, like, I need to have a bow that's going to be shareable, at least a year old, and not like a couple year old bow. Like,
For sure.
nobody knows really, if you're getting into the hunting now, like nobody knows what Agenda 6 is. It was awesome back then, but
Yeah.
now it's not, I don't know, not a talked about thing. So that was just a marketing standpoint. That was it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah.
So when you
And
shoot the VXR versus the Bear, like do you like enjoy shooting the Matthews more, or do you like the feel of the Bear? Granted, the Bear's a little bit older.
yeah, I think, gosh, I haven't picked up the bear because I sort of gave it to a buddy in a minute. But I would say I love the Matthews, and they do shoot great. Like, they're amazing bows. It is way heavier of a bow, in my opinion. I don't know if it actually is, but like it just feels heavier in hand. And I would say it's a little less forgiving on um if you're just off, it has like you're gonna be more off on your target than my bear. Like, my bear was pretty forgiving. Um, and I think I was shooting great with it. I also switched to a four finger this year, and like that was another thing that I think, I don't know if I regret doing. I do shoot really well with it because I'm more focused on like, okay, where am I when I anchor than I was when I was on a trigger release.
Hmm.
But um I think they both shoot great. I think it really doesn't matter like what you're shooting. Like,
Sure.
if you practice with it, it really doesn't matter. Like, I shot a PSE Nova, and I killed my deer with it for the first couple, and that was like a really not great bow. If you look at it, like, it's not a great bow.
Yeah, it's
And
not the one that they're
so
they're marketing hard. Yeah, I get it.
no, right. And it's just it doesn't matter. It just, I would say, get a bow. But I would say, yeah, the VXR shoots great. I haven't shot the new Matthews. Somebody just asked me if I have, and I don't want to because then I might want to buy it because everybody says it's so nice. Um, but I don't know.
I know
They're
there's
really
probably
hard.
a ton of different like specs and stuff on the V3, but to me it looks just like the VXR. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah,
see
it looks
anything
like the
appealing about
VXR.
it that makes it different.
Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I think it's so hard to tell them like side by side. And unless you're unless you really know your bows and like know what's feeling different, like I personally am not going to feel the difference because I don't really pay attention to that kind of thing. Like
Mhm.
if it shoots and hits the target where I want to hit it, like I like that bow. You
For
know,
sure.
it's that simple. I don't really care. I think yeah, the let off's sort of nice. It all depends. I think it's a 30, I believe it's a 32. I don't know. Might not be a 32, might be a I have no idea what it is honestly because I don't pay attention to it at all. Like at all.
All right,
I'll
no
show you
worries.
my arrow setup though. Hold on.
Yeah, let's check it out.
I shoot a deep impact. This is turkey arrow that I just have sitting up here. Shot turkey with this past year, but it's deep
Nice.
impact Black Eagle, um, all white fletchings because I just like to see what kind of blood is on whatever, and then just outserts. And I'm shooting the Rage hypodermic no collar.
Nice. How do you like those rages?
I love them. I think the no collar is amazing. I shot the longest time I shot the NAP Kill Zone. If you're
Mhm.
familiar with that, I don't know. I don't. I think they still make them.
I think
Not
so.
sure. Yeah, I have no idea. But they're. I think that is like one of the best broadheads. Um, besides, they have an issue with the bolts that hold the blades together. When it passes through, it sometimes cuts the bolt off,
Mm,
and so you lose the blades. But otherwise, I never had a problem with those. And then the no collars like came out, and the original hypodermics I think were not as great. And I shot them. I shot a few does with them back when they came out, and that was a while ago. And and they didn't please me very much. But these hypodermics are pretty awesome now that with the no collars because you just clip them together and even if it comes apart, you just push it back together. So
that's pretty nice.
they're
I
a
was
great
shooting those
broadhead, I think.
hypodermics when they first came out, and I think I wasn't impressed by them at all because like whenever I'd shoot
Yeah,
something, it would take like 75 yards for me to pick up blood.
to get blood. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't believe
Yeah.
it.
Well, and I think that's I've had that happen with a lot of rages because I think they go in so small that and then like depending on how they're exiting or where they're exiting, I guess. But I've had that happen with a bunch of rages.
Mm.
And I was never pleased with the blood trail, but uh the last couple of things I've shot have been with the hypodermic, so
All right.
I
I
think
might
they're
have to
doing
give them another whirl.
yeah, I think they're doing okay now. I think they're redesigned and so they're a little nicer now. But
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, man. I'll wrap it up with this question for you. What's your goals for this upcoming season, like this hunting season?
Ooh. Um debate I have a wedding this year. And so there's I don't think very many big hunts that are gonna happen this year.
Okay.
But I think I'm hoping my bachelor party, we're gonna go down to Tennessee for the early velvet season.
Nice.
Um,
That's a
I
heck of a
don't know
bachelor party.
what. Yeah, yeah. I hope it will be okay, and I hope somebody will drop something. I really don't care if it's me or anybody else, but I think it'll just be a fun time in general.
For sure.
Um, that's a hunt that's on the list. I also my family just moved out to New Hampshire and they have 200 acres out there that hasn't been hunted in I have no idea how long, but that would be a property I want to go check out. And I was trying to do it this year. I was back and forth between Kansas and a bunch of other places for work, and so I didn't get a chance to go out there. And with COVID, it just wasn't please or I don't know, it wasn't a thing. So this year I want to do that. And then I got a redemption down in Ohio. I got to get back down there. I did shoot a deer down there this year, and I just made a very judgmental mistake and shot a deer on the run, and he just booked it in high gear the minute I shot.
Ooh,
But I want to get back down there for redemption, and then Michigan, of course, because it's just fun here.
nice, man.
So
That's you got a
yeah.
lot on your plate coming up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I would say that's a slow year. That'll be a slow year.
That's
So
wild, man.
yeah,
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. It really, really means a lot. Thanks for spending some time with us.
yeah, not a problem, man. Thank you.
You want to throw
Be
in
good.
your handles real quick so people can find you?
Yes, of course. So my personal handle for Instagram is TSJ332. That's my personal handle. My other handle for the hunting page is Brothers at Full Draw, all one word, no spaces or anything like that. So it's pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.